Hey puppers, welcome back to another Beyond the Book. I know it's been a while, but I really wanted to do something special for Halloween. So today we are going to be looking at the book by Norman Partridge, Dark Harvest. It was written in 2006, so it's not exactly a very new book, but it's definitely not a classic. It was just turned into a movie that was directed by David Slade. For anybody that, like me, that doesn't really know directors or pretty much any names. Like, I have a really hard time remembering different names. So David Slade directed some television shows. He had a couple episodes in American Gods. He directed a couple episodes in Breaking Bad. He did direct a few episodes in Hannibal. So, like, that's the kind of vibe that he has. It's kind of like the dark, creepy, supernaturally type things. So I was super excited whenever I found out, who he was and that they were turning this book into a movie. So kind of how I got this book, a couple of coworkers decided that they wanted to kind of do like a book club for Halloween to read something spooky together. And they invited a couple of people. So that's how I got to read this book. I had been looking at it for like a while because I really love the cover. I love the scary pumpkin man. As you can see, he's got a flaming pumpkin head, his fun little jean jacket, some tendrils for fingers and things like that. So I just thought it was a really well done cover, and I definitely do judge a book by its cover. Those artists work really hard, so kudos. The book itself, I can't hate it. I really can't. It was a really fun book to read. It's very juvenile, if that makes sense. Like, the writing is chaotic in a way. It almost feels like this is something that would be read around a campfire in like a middle grade Boy Scouts retreat. However, it does get very graphic and gruesome and kind of slashery, so definitely not something I would recommend for a middle grade to read. It might be a little too old for them until they start getting into their horror slasher flicks. I would say if you don't want them watching like Jason or Michael Myers, probably not going to want to let them read this yet. Now, the book itself has such a fun story. It has such a fun creature feature kind of slasher vibe to it. Basically, this town in the 1960s in the US, they live really in the middle of nowhere, and they depend on their crops for money, for their survival. That's their livelihood. And what happens each year on Halloween, they have an event called the Run. Now, the Run is meant to provide good crops for the following year. Now, what they do is they take all of the teenage boys in the town and starve them for 5 days. They lock them in their rooms, they starve them, and basically get them real riled up, real hungry in multiple ways to chase after this monster. Now, the monster was a scarecrow that is in the field from the previous year, and he's given a pumpkin head and stuffed full of candy, brought to life, and sent to the village. So this creature's name, he has a couple different names in the book. I know the main one is Sawtooth Jack, but he is called like Hacksaw Face. That's a personal favorite just because it sounds a little more interesting. But primarily I'm going to refer to him as Sawtooth Jack simply because that is what they call him in the movie. Now, Sawtooth has to get to the town, and he has to get to the church in the town before midnight to win. It's like this whole game. The whole book is basically set up like it's a game. And the boys have to kill him and eat the candy before midnight, before he gets to the church. If they don't do that, the town won't have a good crop season, and their livelihoods are likely to be ruined. So that is pretty much the premise of the book. That's what's happening the whole time. So, and I'm not going to get quite to spoilers yet. There will be spoilers towards the end of the movie just because... towards the end of the video here, just because the movie differs so much from the book that I do think that that is a crazy big part to discuss in comparing the book to the movie. Now, in the book, a lot of the dialogue that's happening in the book is an internal dialogue. It's not necessarily people talking to one another. One of the biggest plot points in this book is the internal monologue from Sawtooth Jack. So that's something that's really hard to translate into a movie, so we actually don't get that in the movie, which is a little bit disappointing. But overall, the book compared to the movie, it's difficult to say. I read the book first, so I'm a little bit partial to the book. The movie was well done. It was a very beautifully filmed movie. Very artistic shots. The acting was decent in most cases, a little bit wooden, but I don't think that that was the fault of the actors, as much as the fault of, like, the direction and the story itself, the way it's being told. I don't think that they really had motivation to go off of, because the plot was really kind of dulled down. It was watered down a little bit, and a lot of the really meaty parts of the book were left out. I'm gonna kind of start with the negatives a little bit, because I always like to end on a good note. One of the things that I don't like that they did, I respect it and I understand why they did it, and I think that it could have been done better, was the awkward racial tension. Now, it is the 1960s in a southern state in America. Like, yes, I understand there is going to be racial tension. There was no racial tension in the book, so I don't know why they felt the need to add it, other than it's something that's a really hot topic right now, which I don't like to discuss because I don't feel like I know enough. I'm not educated in that, so I don't really like to dive into that kind of thing, but it felt like it came out of nowhere. And it wasn't just the inclusion of an African-American girl, but there were weird, like, Latino references that kind of came out of nowhere in the movie, and it was uncomfortable. And I get that those moments are supposed to be uncomfortable. If you're not uncomfortable during it, I feel like then the questions start to come. But I don't think that that was necessarily an important part to put in the movie. Now, I feel like they definitely could have had some more inclusion in the movie. They only chose to include, I think, like 2 persons of color in the movie. But again, I don't know. I would have done it differently. I would have definitely had a little bit more of a diverse cast. Without making it a point that it's a diverse cast, you know, like, they're there, they play a character, but I don't think it has to be weird and tense. Now, the second thing, which I should have flip-flopped that, because that wasn't, like, a big deal. It wasn't the reason that, like, I disliked the movie or loved the movie. I think one of the bigger reasons that I didn't like the movie was because they kind of ousted the main character. So in the book, we follow a young boy who's, I believe, 14, and it's 16. He would have to be 16. My apologies. I think his little sister was 14. But we follow this young boy. It's his very first run, and he is scared. He's nervous. He doesn't necessarily want to do the run, but he lives with an alcoholic father. His mother has died, and he wants to be able to take care of his little sister. So we kind of have that emotional tie to him immediately. Like, he doesn't want to do this, but he feels the need that he has to take care of his family. And you get kind of like the Hunger Games vibe, you know, like, I volunteer as tribute to do this run. And he decides he's gonna win. He's gonna win the run. He's gonna save his family. He's gonna get out of this town that he hates. And immediately there's this kind of like rivalry with the police officer in the town. believe his name is Rex. Again, I'm not very good at names, so I apologize if I mess up a name or forget a name. But Officer Rex in the book is just very cruel. He's kind of like on this power trip. He beats these kids for almost no reason. He's very much a cruel, angry man. And that's his character. That's all we need to know. He's pretty much the villain of the book, if you don't include Sawtooth Jack himself. So we're following this main character, the 16-year-old boy, and he gets the absolute crap beaten out of him by the police officer. I don't remember why. I don't know if it ever says why. I think he was just like out after curfew or something like that, but he is beaten pretty bad. So he makes the decision on the run. He's gonna go and he's gonna get Officer Rex. So that's kind of like the first part of the book, is he's gonna win, but first he's gonna take some revenge. And that's when he runs into a couple of jocks that are like just beating the hell out of this little girl. So he rescues her, and they're trying to like lay low. Girls aren't allowed to do the run. So she's not supposed to be outside. And then her character is kind of where we find a little bit more details about this community, about why people don't leave, and what happens to them if they leave. So I feel like she was a pretty important character. They did it differently in the movie, but the point still came across, so fine. Now, as we proceed through the book, we're learning more about why the run has to happen through the memories and from the thought process of Sawtooth Jack. I think that it is really interesting how they do it. I love that he has like this deep, raspy, scary voice. So whenever the kids, like, I think someone hit him and candy flew out of his mouth. So after that, he could talk. And he has like this really scary, raspy voice, and it just scares the shit out of everyone. And so after that, we get to kind of hear him talk a little bit, but it's still primarily an inner dialogue that we don't get to hear in the movie, that, you know, it's just something that you read. I'm going to start getting into a little bit of spoilers here, so go ahead and skip ahead if you don't want spoilers to the book. So I would say about halfway through, we find out that the winner of the previous year's run, the boy who kills Sawtooth Jack, is given all this money, given a nice car. You know, his family gets this big house, and just like, they're taken care of. They don't have to pay any bills. And he is taken out into the cornfield, and Officer Rex shoots him in the head. So they kill him, and he is strung up to become the next Sawtooth Jack. So his father, who didn't know that, he didn't know that that's what happens to the winner, is inducted into this like guild of people. Forgive me, I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it's like a secret society. And he has to carve the pumpkin that is going to be the next Sawtooth Jack. He has to stuff his dead son full of candy and bring him to life and send him into the town to be killed again. So we have another like just heart-wrenching idea that this father is just devastated. He's absolutely devastated that he had to watch his son get killed, and then he has to pretend nothing is wrong and live in this giant house and drive nice cars and do all these things, knowing that his son is going to be killed again. And his job, after releasing Sawtooth Jack back into the town, he has to go to the church and wait there. So if his son makes it to the church, it is technically his job to kill him again. It's really sad. Um, so in the book, we have now, once we find that out, we have this whole idea that, like, Sawtooth Jack isn't just a mindless character. Like, he was a person, and he has memories, and he remembers, and he is trying so hard to get to the church to end it, to end the game. And our main characters now find out. So they find out that Sawtooth Jack was last year's winner, and they decide, we're not going to win. We're going to put an end to it. And they kind of like team up, which I thought was really neat, because Sawtooth, like, he kills anyone in his way. That's another big difference from the movie. In the movie, it's like he sees someone and he goes to kill them. Whereas in the book, he only kills people that are quite literally in his way. Like, his mission is to get to the church. He's not interested in, you know, killing random people. So, like, if someone was, like, hiding, there's a part in the movie where this group of kids are, like, hiding in a basement in a storm cellar, and he opens the door and goes inside and kills all of them. He doesn't really do that in the book, because that's wasting his time. You know, he needs that time to get to the church. So, but it is a horror movie. It's a slasher flick, so you gotta have the bodies racking up in the movie there. But towards the end, I do love how they ended the book. I think that it was just a really interesting way to end this specific book. And it goes where our main character and the young girl, they meet up with Sawtooth Jack. They kind of let him know, like, we know who you are. We know what happened to you. We want to help you. And they, you know, there's a bunch of fight scenes and things going on. But they get him to the church. You know, they get him into the church where his father is technically waiting for him to shoot him in case he gets there. And his father actually committed suicide so that he wouldn't have to kill his son again. So Sawtooth Jack wins. He's in the church. It's over. It's past midnight. He won. He won the game. And the Sheriff Ricks, he is furious. He is absolutely on a rampage because he lost. You know, they lost. The crops are going to die. Their way of life is going to die. And he is not happy about it. So he actually does some really terrible things, kills some people. And then he goes after Sawtooth Jack. And they're fighting, and there's this whole shootout, and Sawtooth Jack actually kills him. He kills the sheriff, and he helps the main character get away. And in his internal monologue, he's saying how, you know, the lineage has ended. You know, this kid was supposed to be the winner. He was destined to be the next Sawtooth Jack. And because he helped end the process, he got to get away. So it was just a really kind of emotional moment in the book, just watching this pumpkin kid die, I guess. and just this whole way of life just going to hell. And this kid goes home, he packs up his sister, he tells his dad, get in the car, and they leave. They leave the town, they leave everything behind them, and it's like quite literally going up in flames due to some other events that happened. And that's it. That's how the book ends. They're driving away from this horrific place where just they kill kids, you know, they're killing children. And I really like that. I like that they got away, that it didn't end the way that you would think it ends, where, like, they kill the pumpkin and that's that. Now, for the movie adaptation, that's exactly what they did. They completely took out the main character, and they made the film's main character is the younger brother of the previous winner. So they kind of keep it in the family. He's not supposed to do the run because his family won last year, so they can't win again. It just wouldn't be fair to the other families in the town, so they say he can't run. He basically says F it, and he decides to run anyway. And we still have, like, Officer Ricks being kind of an asshole, and just no one likes him, and he's just super aggressive. He hates this main character. So he's still quite similar, but they give him, like, a sad backstory, which I don't like. Sometimes I just want a villain to be a villain. I don't want to know why they became a villain. I just want them to be the bad guy. So they do a lot of things different. I feel like in the movie it's so focused on the artistry of the filming, which is fine because it was phenomenally filmed. It's stunning. That they left some things out that I feel like made the actual book special. So there's just some, like, weird groundskeeper that puts Sawtooth together like it's not the father. It's just some weird guy. And then the actual Sawtooth Jack character is terrible. I know he's CG, but, like, he does not look like this. He doesn't have a pumpkin head, and it was very, very specific in the book that he had a head for a pumpkin. He had glowing eyes. He did not have eyeballs. He did not have, like, a tongue. He didn't have any human features. Like, he was a jack-o'-lantern. And they made him, like, this weird, like, alien-esque type creature, which I just didn't like. I just wanted him to be a pumpkin, and he wasn't. He didn't have any of the abilities, like the use of fire. So, like, in the book, he could take the fire from inside his head and light things on fire. They didn't really go over that in the movie at all. He's just kind of there. And they changed so much. The younger brother in the movie ends up killing him at the church. They never make it into the church. Officer Ricks shoots Sawtooth Jack, and they're trying to drag him into the church, and then, you know, his brother's holding the gun and pointing it at Rick, and Sawtooth, like, takes his hand and points the gun, like, at him. So his little brother kills him. Officer Ricks lives, and he's just like, okay, cool beans. We won. And, you know, the whole community goes crazy, and they're like, the new winner, like, second generation. That's amazing. Like, you know, your brother and you, and, like, it's great. And he, like, gets in the car with his love interest, and they, like, try to drive away. And then they're stopped by that same, like, weird crypt keeper guy that stuffed the pumpkin in the beginning, and Officer Ricks. And he basically, same dealio, gets taken out to the cornfield and shot. So our main character dies. And to me, it just completely disregards the point of the book where, like, they end the legacy. You know, that whole, I'm trying to think of the word.
I lost the word there.
But, like, the whole idea is done. Like, they didn't win. And the movie just completely disregarded that. And I just don't like it when films do that, when they take the entire essence of the source material and they change it. But the one thing that I can say about the movie, changing things like that, is it almost felt like a prequel. And I say that because at the end, they hoist the kid up, he becomes the new Scarecrow, and whenever he is stuffed full of candy and brought down and sent to the town, it's his dad, like, kills the weird crypt keeper guy, and then tells him to go burn the town down. Go burn it down. And that's essentially what happens in the book. So I don't know if that's what they were going for, of, like, the prequel idea, but I think that it definitely disregarded what made the book special, for sure. It was an okay movie. I really don't think it was anything spectacular. You know, I have definitely seen worse. If you don't believe me, go check out some of our Perfectly Pawful videos. But I've also seen much better. You know, I've seen much better adaptations, much better films in general. And I think this one is just like a solid middle of the road. Even the book, I would say, you know, I've read better, I've read worse. And it's just a fun Halloween read. So overall, I would say if you like kind of weird, weird reads that are just fun for the time of year that you can sit down and read in a sitting in like 2 hours, definitely would recommend it. The movie isn't out on like DVD or anything like that. I did have to buy it from Amazon. It was only like $6. So if you were interested in watching it, like I said, it's a beautiful movie. I think that the filmography and the cinematography was stunning. I just didn't quite like how they adapted it. But overall, I would give it like a solid passing grade. So if you read this book, if you saw the movie, let me know what you think of it down in the comments. Did you love the book? Did you hate it? Did you love the movie? Did you hate it? And I'm just curious of what you guys think. So I can't wait to talk to you guys about it and, you know, see what's next for Beyond the Book. Toodles!